Welcome back to the Elevate podcast, a thought leadership platform designed for behavioral health executives navigating growth, innovation, and impact. Today's episode is a special presentation originally delivered during the Treatment Professionals Alumni Services TPAS Workshop. Let's get started.
Step in and talk more about sort of the executive perspective on financial impact, kind of taking us from where Colton is into now that we have an idea of what these numbers look like, how do you translate that information in a way that will be, it will hit home to our leadership. So, Gary, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Gina. Hey guys, very nice to meet you all. And can I share the screen, by the way? I put together a quick deck that we could go through. Okay.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Do you all see it? There we go.
Yes.
Good. And let's just keep it conversational. I have a tendency to go on rant sometimes, so feel free to just shut me up and ask a question. That's actually appreciated if that's the case. So let's just frame this next 20 minutes. Essentially, what I always look at is to say, how can you position something? Everything is the perceived value of an effort, of a product. In marketing, why does a Gillette razor cost 15 times more than another? They put a lot of money into market. There's a certain association, emotion, and a perception that is giving you something better. So with alumni, typically what I see, we work with about 50 facilities. It's this, island by itself, very low funded, not a lot of attention. And over the last 3 years of running Elevate, my focus has really been on alumni because I look at everything from a number standpoint. And essentially what we're going to talk about today is how can the industry in general, because that's what I'm passionate about, position alumni as their channel that should drive, I would say, upwards 50 plus of census. There's a survey published on recover.com where me and 10 other people were interviewed on average ideal state of a census. And it was from all executives, and this is CMOs, CEOs at some larger facilities and marketing agencies, was 50 plus should be the target. That's a mix of readmissions, referrals, everything in that sense, because other channels is so expensive. And this is, we'll get into all that. So essentially, let's go here. I'm not going to talk too much about myself. You already saw the intro, but very quick backstory is I came from outside the industry. I worked 10 years with Google, 5 years with Microsoft, built a couple of companies really in that SaaS world, Silicon Valley data development. And their data is everything, right? You don't bring data to the table. It's like, please, here's the door, right? So I was doing that and I was quote unquote successful and just burned out. I was struggling myself, having had a lot of deep demons I was suffering with. And at the same time with me being suffering, but just like being a functional addict, I would call it. One of my best friends died. He got into this body broker. I found out I didn't know anything about the industry. And essentially got an overdoses, and I started to unpack this industry, and I was like, no, I can't have this. I want to change this. So I'm not helping tech companies and other industries just make more money. So I actually decided to invest into a facility, 2 facilities to be exact. It was just February 2020, right before COVID. So 14 days of travel restrictions. It was in Dominican and in Canada, so folks couldn't fly in. But it was intentional. I think he has a plan with me because I was sitting there interviewing the marketing agencies that I would be hiring. I would be the CMO in the company, and there's a lot of SEO snake oil salesmen, and nobody knew this and so forth. And everything is like it could be many different ways. I'm like, no. If you work in an industry and you know your trade, you have the numbers. You can predict any other industry in this world can do this. So I decided to essentially take those skill sets and let me instead help the facilities with good intentions get more census, because there's a big gap, and eradicate these body brokers who are just getting rewards from because of people suffering, which is horrible, right? So that's the quick backstory to me. Our company Elevate works with about 50 facilities, everything from 4,000 beds, like the big multi-location facility, to a 6-bed facility that just started up for that matter. So we run a lot of campaigns, a lot of marketing dollars, and after a while, you start seeing some patterns. So if you look here very first on the right side, you can see what I call the elevate hierarchy of patient acquisitions. So I started to see the data across all these marketing channels, and Google Ads is almost like the default way to get patients nowadays. But it costs $4,000 to $9,000 in average based on location, in network, out of network, specialization, etc. And sometimes upwards 15,000 if you're out of network in California. Microsoft Ads cheaper, Meta Ads, recovery. But really, what I tell folks is that if you focus on the essentials, the foundation, and you can see business development significantly lower, local SEO, that's your know-how, your reputation in the local community, and alumni is a big part of that. And alumni is essentially just a slam dunk ROI, right? So very often when I come in, they're operating from the top, and there's no bottom basically. And I said, like, the goal with this engagement is very first and foremost, let's get to the full census, the bleeding typically. Afterwards, let's turn the pyramid upside down and build a healthy, profitable, sustainable census. Not just because of the cost of acquiring a customer, but if you look at these average conversion metrics, what this means is if a lead comes in from an alumni referral, it is converting at 50%, very high. Of course, they're recommended by somebody who's been in the program. They already seen it being a success. They witnessed the transformation. So they convert at very high rates. Now, if you compare that with organic, somebody's searching, doing research, ChatGPT, Gemini, they're looking on it, Google, they're converting at half the percentage. And people very often spend tens of thousands of dollars on the website SEO, and that's why I went into it. They're speaking with some SEO snake oil salesman that's talking to them about clicks and impressions and social media shares, right? But that doesn't pay the bills. And the paid channels where folks put most of the money, they convert very low, right? So first and foremost, why am I saying all this? And you're probably saying, what is he talking about? Why does it matter to me? You have to understand the context to position it effectively to your executive, to your CEO, or why you need to be promoted, why you need more resources and more funds. So, and furthermore, and obviously I'm preaching to the choir here, but typically what I would position is investing in the entire program. It becomes not only a success story that if you have a good marketing team, they'll start creating alumni testimonials that increases conversion rates, better return on marketing. You can fuel the 5-star reviews. We will get into the detail later, which is key now with SEO and AI. You will not get visibility based on the old tactics now. It's brand, referring domains, reputation, all that matters. So people who do this now are the people who's going to dominate in the future. But furthermore, in your local community, you get continuous referrals, you get a community ambassadors, and you have essentially a much stronger source to drive stability. So why would you not do it, right? That's a fucking no-brainer, Gary. Excuse my French. Well, I think if you look at it, and this is how I explain it to an executive, it's like, you're looking at the Alumni ROI Chain. Yeah, but Gary, I'm not really seeing it. Okay, I paid this guy $50K, whatever, and then he's doing an event every month, and then we get an app. But it's not really, I'm not really seeing an ROI. Of course you're not, right? You're throwing like a nickel at it compared to your $500,000 monthly Google Ads budget, right? So you have to position it that in order to get the desired outcome, you need to have the appropriate resource allocation, right? Because it's not just, hey, the CEO wants to get here, right? But you need to work on all of these things in a systemized connection, trust, participation, advocacy. You need systems, processes. You need funding. You need a lot of resources to get them to this stage. And then afterwards, in order to track this outcome, you need a system in place, integrated system that can track the ROI. Otherwise, you have to sit there and do calculations, and we're not all blessed with Colton's math skills, right? So you have to build up the dashboards and the reports in order for the executive. But I guarantee you, if you do it, they're gonna slash 50K off the budget in Google Ads. Is what I see. It's like, holy shit. But you gotta have that paradigm shift. So let's talk a little bit about how do you create that paradigm shift? So in my viewpoint, the clients we work with, consult with, they are a challenge right now, right? They really care about alumni, but they care about any channel really, because a lot of people are suffering right now. There's the census is unstable, right? There's uh, increase in cost in cost per admit. There's definitely more competition. Now with the change of SEO, brand reputation matters a lot. You used to just put all your money in Google Ads, but when you stop your campaign, the music stops, right? You're not getting anything more. So all of a sudden, the people who have invested a lot in alumni and building a brand, and when I connect alumni with a brand, it's because that is establishing a brand. You build brand ambassadors that leave you reviews, that recommend you, that communicate together. Like just think about any other brand in any other industry. That is the case, right? I'm wearing a Whoop. You have a whole Whoop community, right? Or Peloton, doesn't really matter. Why would a facility not have a lot of reviews, a lot of ambassadors, and people that are proud and engaged with it, right? So it matters more than ever, but no facilities have invested in it, or very few have invested, but probably too little. Then you add that marketing efficiency is declining as steep, very steep now. The revenue per bed has declined. I don't know if you heard this or you probably experienced this, but the insurance companies, they are combating denials with AI. So everything and anything is getting rejected, and payments are significantly reduced. And that impacts you and marketing department and anybody else, because that's the first thing that executive CFO slashes. So overall, you combine all those things, that is problem, but it's also an opportunity. That's how I see it. It's an opportunity for you if you understand what they're investing in, you understand the situation, right? Now we can start positioning why they should invest more in alumni program. So basically, in a nutshell, these 5 stars, that's how you can say it. Paid media is more expensive than ever. I call it the Googleflation. It's going up double digit every quarter. It's insane. Directories, recover.com, they have like 50 facilities there. Is that your strategy now? SEO, forget it. Unless you work with a very few good agencies, you're gonna get it's not gonna work anymore. So admissions teams, they're sitting there, they're under pressure. There's not investment in systems, they're understaffed, and the competition for qualified patients has just intensified. So how can we help solve that? First, we have to think about what we report or what we communicate. So I call this like it gets lost in translation, right? You meet with an executive, they're busy, they have a lot of things on their mind, right? And they're like, cut to the chase, right? So the best way to cut to the chase is numbers and data. I'm very big on that. I'm not saying culture and values and connection. I'm all for all of that too. But if you want to get your point across and make it clear, concise, and build a case, you have numbers and data. So if you are internally are focusing on how many events did you do, calls you made, text messages sent, the app engagement, group attendance, alumni, these are good metrics, certainly. But from an executive standpoint, they can't quantify that for a business impact. You follow? Like they're thinking about, shit, do we get the check from Aetna we've been fighting for, right? Oh, I have this lawsuit hanging over here. We got to open up a new facility. Shit, I'm understaffed here too, and my good folks that's what's on their mind. So while your initiatives and your reports here, it's not bad, it's good. You're doing a good job and you're passionate about it. You have to understand their viewpoint. So they're thinking about how many referrals came in. Yeah, that all sounds good, but how did they contribute? Because just to the point on readmissions, like this is something I'm very big on, all these different things. Attribution, that's my domain, right? Because these BD reps, for example, say, hey, that's my lead. And like, it came through Google, it hit the Google business profile. And by the way, there's been 3 other touch points on the website, and now the BD raises the hand. Track everything, and readmit and admit could be influenced as well. If you can measure that, now you're starting to get more and more attribution. How many views are generated? That's important. I think most executives understand that. And essentially, am I able to reduce my cost per admission? Right? I always say when I talk with executives, I say I live by 3 metrics. There's 3 metrics that matter. The rest is important. We measure it, we manage it, we optimize it, but it's noise. Census, of course, to drive that, it's your cost per admit, it's your cost per viable opportunity, and it's cost per opportunity, cost per VOB. Because then you can measure the cost of acquiring each of those opportunities as the regular sales funnel and optimize. So they're looking at these numbers. They know how that will influence and impact the business. So I'm not saying you can do this right now, but as I mentioned, I like metrics, KPIs, numbers. And in my book, for instance, I put like this more for executives, maybe it's like put the top 25 sales metrics and KPIs that any sales leader should have. And the reason you need to put the metrics and so forth is because then you start questioning, like, well, I don't know how to get this data. Well, the only way to start figuring out is by identifying what you should be measuring. And then next you can start figuring out how to measure it. And next you can start reporting on it. And magic happens when that occurs. So first and foremost, if you can report on how many alumni source referrals you had that came to admissions, that converted, right? How much revenue, as Colton was talking about, is attributed to your alumni program, whether readmissions or admits, doesn't matter. Admissions reviews generated, for me, very important contributing factor. Why is it important? It gives you visibility, but also credibility when the next marketing leads come in. Can I trust this facility, right? So, and admissions, alumni coordinator, I make it their responsibility when we work with clients. Event to referral conversion. Again, if you want to ask for more money, you have to measure what's the particular conversions as occurring as such. Re-engagement opportunities or readmissions, alumni participation rate, referral, partner introductions. We build we do BD consulting for some of the biggest facilities. They hire me because of sales marketing, and I come in and work with like 50 BD reps. And I'm like, you're branding yourself out there. You need to have outcome studies. You need to have the collateral. You need to, essentially, the more reviews they're looking at, should this profession, this psychiatrist, this interventionist, this case manager, they're looking at your online profile, assessing you before the right. So the active referrals can actually be influenced by having good programs. So that's 10 metrics that you should figure out, like, how can we maybe say to your CEO, would this be relevant for us to measure? Which one, or ask instead, which of these do you like the most? Is there any you don't like to measure? Right? Just get them engaged. Don't ask for permission, just ask for their feedback. I know you're good at this, blah, blah, blah. Sugarcoat them a little bit. And understand where they're coming from. So what I'm showing you now, and this is not everybody, but the most savvy executives that I see in this industry, what I think this industry transformation is occurring right now is like the people, are good business operators, are focused on the right outcomes. They're going to dominate very soon because the landscape is changing. So, for example, what I'm showing you here is some sample dashboards that we have, and we do it across the board. So essentially, this is just for SEO, for example. You would have page search, recovery, alumni. You have all the dashboards for everything because we integrate it with the CRM or any other systems as well. And essentially, these are the metrics that they will be accustomed to, or very often, at least will elevate. So you can see, again, you have the cost per VOB, the cost per viable VOB, the cost per admission. So if we're talking about how many readmits, et cetera, you're generating, again, if you're comparing it with what they got already, then you can build the case. And in this case, this is the reporting they are accustomed to seeing, like straight to the point. This is just a screenshot of this. We have KPIs, targets, like you would have a KPI for X amount of readmissions, referrals, reviews, all that could be established. And we measure that in like the Google Business Profile. This is not to show you about all these, this is more like, this is what's perceived very well. I get folks that come to me like, you got to talk with this guy. I love you. I'm just like, what dashboards? This dashboard is just data. It's not proprietary, right? But for me, it's the most important because it tells a story. And it's black and white. So if I were you and you were to build a CEO dashboard, you can see we got to talk about the business impact, right? Not the activities, not the job tasks we have to do, but more like we build a dashboard that we can structure it so we can see how many active active alumni do you have, right? Referrals, admissions, reviews generated, readmissions. You definitely should get credit for that, by the way. Who else is going to get the credit, by the way? I didn't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yes.
Give me a good argument for that.
Right.
Or the top alumni advocates. That for me is a good one, right? Give them shirt, give them swag, bring them into the program, send them to Bahamas with the wife. Thank you. A small token of our appreciation for these guys going out there preaching your language, right? Share of admission, census contribution, cost per, basically a CEO dashboard that's focused on impact, numbers, week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter performance. That's what they want to see. Now, yeah, you're probably thinking, this sounds good, Gary. How the fuck am I going to do this, right?
Yep.
We're going back to the perceived value, right? The perceived value. You can do this, right? But you either have to know how to do it, right? You have to make sure your facility has the right tech stack. This sounds all fancy, but we don't even have a CRM, Gary, Great. So you got to start building the case for the value of data, right? That's I say straight up no to clients when they come in. They don't have any CRM systems like that. I'm like, it's gonna be your words against mine. I'm not gonna do that. I'm too old for this shit. We'll talk about data. So you need to understand. You need to communicate with your CEO that alumni is an ecosystem, right? It's just not just me. It's the entire company, right? It is that we are recognizing that Colton said, our alumni, right? We are helping them make accountable. We have different tools, events, meetings, apps, different structures, and basically in place that's consistent to help them stay engaged. We collect all the data. We get leadership support. It should be initiatives coming from the top down, right? It shouldn't just be this outsourced, siloed. And essentially, we want to have the right structures in place to be able to measure community growth. Do we have the right technology, right? Is it integrated? That's the second problem very often. And essentially, you can see how it all comes together. So admissions is working with BD, who's working with marketing, who's working with alumni, who's working with a therapist, who's working with executives. Now you got a case. So
and Gary, you
that's
have
from
about
my experience.
1 minute left. Yeah.
1 minute. So I'll make it very briefly. If you want, you can go to our I calculator here. This is a screenshot. You can fill it out to the best of your ability. You can find it here at the link if it's circulated afterward, the deck. And you can kind of like put in, because you could sit with your CEO and say, listen, I want some more money, bro. Here is my program. It's my census, his revenue. Here's all the different conversion rates that they have. They should be measuring all these things. And then you can say the cost for B2B, the revenue. They can benchmark everything. So you can see, wait a minute, you're spending $500,000 on marketing, and you're getting a 4x return. No, sorry, 3.8. The benchmark is 4. Right now, you have a baseline to communicate. You follow me? Now you understand what they're investing. You're building up the perceived value that you can now ask for more money. So I would recommend going to that tool. And then last but not least, and then that's it for me. Just to explain a little bit, we've gone to the extent, I'm basically just always thinking, because my purpose is to make sure that these facilities gets full. So I'm always thinking, what's the best way to do it? So we even went to the extent that before this venture, I created a plan for my own facilities because everybody needs a discharge plan. Like, why the fuck are they sending them off? So I created these, but now I white label them for our clients as part of the marketing tactic. Basically, it can help with generate more reviews and create referrals. So if anybody's interested, you can just scan the QR code. And we have a special promotion for you guys to get 100 planners for $2,000. That's $20 a pop. With design, fully white label, your CEO letter, everything customized. We build the landing pages because we basically go ahead and build the QR codes that they can scan it. We train your team on how to do it, and essentially build the case for how you can get to that point. Am I good on time?
You are? Yeah. Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful information. Both of you have given us a lot to think about. Instead of me asking questions, I'm going to put it out to the group for the last 3 minutes or so. If you have any questions in regards to what came up between Colton and Gary, we'll be happy to open that up for questions right now. And I know it's a lot of information in a very short window of time, but so good. Anybody have anything specific that they have a question about that came up for you?
My question was a little more, Colton, I understand what you're saying about the readmits. My question is more, how do you get your company to give that credit to you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I get what you're saying about the EMRs, all that good jazz. But
Yeah.
I don't think they recognize readmits as an alumni success so far.
Yeah. That you're going to hate this answer. You've got to tell them
Okay.
that that is one of the
Hey, I can do that.
metrics, yeah, in which you're going to measure my performance on. There's two outputs. It's either a readmission or an alumni referral that can show how I'm contributing in my role.
Okay.
You know, it's my responsibility to take care of people when they leave the facility, even if they've only been there for 3 days. That's what alumni is.
I mean, and with the regression rates that you mentioned, Colton, like if you're not measured and rewarded or it goes attributed, then they will go to the neighbor facility or elsewhere. That's pretty often what I see happen is that shame kicks in. Fuck, man, I let them down. I let myself down. I'm too afraid to pick up the phone and go back to the same program. So they would rather spend marketing and give them $10,000 to get the next client than tell you that you deserve it and give you a bonus.
Yeah.
That's not right. That's not right.
Yeah.
That is why. Who the heck are you going to give that attribute that we admit to?
So let me just wrap up this last minute by saying that, the evolution of alumni programming over the last 20 years has really put us in a place where we have a responsibility as alumni leaders to be educating our leadership because they don't know. And so the data that you've learned about here today, and thank you, Colton, for putting information in there for folks if they have questions. That information is going to arm you with how you can educate your leadership because there still is a paradigm shift that has to happen where leaders still feel like alumni is an afterthought. Yes, it's a nice thing to do. We're not really sure still what the value proposition is. But now that we've got data that Gary and Colton are sharing that you all can now take the time to collect, you can make a case for it and bring it to them and it will blow their mind, literally blow their mind in understanding, wow, we've never thought about alumni from that perspective. No one else in the organization is going to do this for you. It has to be us that does that. And that is part of our responsibility. And so I want to thank Gary and Colton again for all of your wisdom and your valuable information. Thank you both so much for your time. And thank you all again for participating in today's workshop. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning into the Elevate podcast. If you like the content you heard today, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next show.